Now, don't be afraid of that. Don't be nervous. This course isn't meant to be super difficult. So if this is the hardest week, that's not saying that much. But this week, you are going to be going notably deeper on the virtual reality and Unreal Engine side of things and the augmented reality and Unity side of things. You, in particular, are going to get a little bit into the world of logic in both of these ecosystems. This past week, you mainly just kind of figured out how to create some accounts, get Unreal and Unity running, and get your apps deployed to the headsets and to VR. This week, we're actually going to be building some stuff. You're going to be getting into blueprints to add logic to Unreal Engine. You're going to be getting into C# a little bit to add logic to Unity. And I think that's where things start to get really interesting. In particular, as you go through these two different halves of the coin, okay, these two different sides of the coin, halves of the course, I want you to always be thinking about what are the similarities here. You got two game engines. What is feeling similar between them, right? If I've got this concept in Unreal, what is the equivalent concept in Unity? And that's going to start to make you into less of a Unity dev or an Unreal dev and more into a generalist game engine developer. Or you could say an engineer, right? And eventually you'll be able to learn new game engines and new technologies and technical ecosystems like that, okay? Your first game engine takes years to learn. Your second is going to take weeks, all right? So look forward to that. A couple announcements. Your Exploration AR assignment has been delayed to Friday, okay? If you've already got it done, you've got it turned in, awesome. Very good stuff. And that's going to set you up well for this week. You can just head straight into it. If you need the Groundworks workstations in order to deploy to your device. If you're one of those lucky, Windows laptop and iPhone people like I am, then you've been delayed a little bit. Groundworks, they did a refresh over the break or something, the holiday break, and they just forgot to add Unity on. Xcode is on those machines. But we're going to have to do some testing in there. I think they're adding Unity in today. They're very apologetic. But that's really the kind of thing that I should be checking before the semester. But it's very, very difficult, actually, because while we lost Unity in Groundworks, we could have lost Unreal in here. I checked Unreal in here. I didn't check Unity in there. It gets to this question of when do you stop checking things? Because there is no limit to the number of things we can check. Maybe I should check that Arcane machines still have C++ compilers, right? And so anyway, in the future, I'm definitely going to be spending some time in Groundworks before the semester starts to prevent this kind of thing from happening. So thank you for your patience. If this affected you, you got some bonus time now. And if we can't get this up and running soon, you better believe there's going to be a delay or some changed requirements on Tutorial AR as well. But man, isn't it awesome to have your apps deploying to your actual phone? If you haven't ever done that before, I hope it's kind of a magical moment when you see your phone spring to life with something that you made. It's one of those magical moments, like the first time you put on a VR headset, and like the first time you have a server program that opens up a socket and a client that successfully connects to it, and they come to life. That's the next magical moment I'm trying to create as we design the new LiveOps and MMO architecture course. So maybe I will talk to you a little bit about that course design as the semester progresses. But designing a course is very similar to designing a video game, very similar to designing a XR experience as well. So very, very interesting creative challenge. If you look at where we are in the schedule, we are launching Tutorial VR, Tutorial AR, and Culture 1 today. I'm going to talk about what those things are in a bit. But first, like pretty much every lecture, I want to show you and interesting might be the best thing I can say about this company. An interesting XR startup with an interesting social impact purpose and an interesting approach to going about it. The fact that this exists at all is interesting to me. It is a company that has raised $12 million in funding. Oh my goodness. This is a company called HoloRide. They are based in Germany, in Munich, I believe. And they are a company that is going to change the way that you experience passenger vehicle rides. And they're going to do this using XR. I don't know. I'm trying not to judge it too much, okay, because I want you to judge it. I don't want to taint your impression. Maybe this is awesome. You really love it. But when you look at the website, okay, cool website, HoloRide, adding thrill to every ride. They're the world's only motion-synced in-car VR experience. Boring car ride? Never heard. HoloRide takes the chore out of commuting. We bring the car's movements to your VR experience. You dive into a new world of entertainment. And we can see in this nice little video here. Do we have audio? Can we just watch it? Listen to this epic music. Okay, listen. This music makes me think that like Batman is going to come out of nowhere. This video didn't do a very good job of expressing what the innovation is here. You can buy any normal headset, VR headset, and you can experience games and you can watch film and TV shows, movies, whatever you want. In particular, the HoloRide headset has mechanisms for detecting acceleration. And so it also has software that can pipe that into the games and the experiences. And the games and experiences have been custom built to use that information. I.e., what happens is you get into a car, you put on the headset, and when the car does a turn around a corner and you would feel those forces, those G's, that acceleration, that information is piped into the game experience, which can then like show your vehicle careening off to the side in the same way that your car actually is in real life. I.e., we're basically matching the G's that your body senses with the visuals in the actual headset. What happens if your body is sensing a certain movement in a certain direction, but your vision is telling you that actually you're not turning or you're turning in a different way? You've got like some of your senses think you're going that way, your other senses think you're going that way. What is this called? What happens to the human? In the back.
Motion sickness?
Yeah, motion sickness. Okay, motion sickness is a horrible problem in VR, and it comes from that kind of, you're getting mixed signals, right? Part of your body is telling you you're going that way, part of your body is telling you you're going that way, or more likely, a part of your body is telling you you're not moving, and another part of your body is telling you that you are moving. Your brain interprets this as you being poisoned and wants to make you puke. And so it tries to make you puke. In virtual reality, this is often a problem, right? In VR, our ears and our eyes are being told that we're moving, right? We're in a roller coaster. We are accelerating down this roller coaster track, but our body doesn't actually feel any of those G's. And so we get a strong sense of motion sickness very quickly from that disconnect. This app, this software, is trying to make those match up when you are in a vehicle. It detects that you are going around a sharp turn, and the game software tries to match what your body is feeling to what you are seeing and hearing. And the idea is we're going to eliminate the motion sickness, and, there you go, okay? And so, well, what else can they tell us? You'll love being a passenger, okay? Enjoy every ride. What else do we have? More euphoria, less nausea. So nausea reduction is literally a thing here. Your phone in a virtual world. I'm not sure what that even means. Let me see here. Are we there already? Right, so they've got really fun content or something. I didn't think the games looked particularly enticing, but maybe they're really fun. I don't know. In any case, you can see that they offer an SDK. So if you want to make games for this particular platform, then you can do that. You can download, I'm sure you can download some stuff for Unity, some plugins to get that information about what is happening to our player. And yeah. So one question is, how on earth did they make money? Will we be able to figure this out? One thing I'll say is that I have been showing off this company for a number of years now. Their website has not gone down, which means they're probably not bankrupt. And this video is new, and some of these games we're seeing are new, which means, again, they probably have some money coming in, or they are continuing to get investment money. In any case, someone believes in this company, whether it's an investor who's just giving them money over the years, or if they actually have customers. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is maybe in Germany, this is the big thing, right? I don't think so. Has anyone been to Germany? Yeah? How many times did you use the HoloRide in Germany?
I don't think it existed when I was there.
Oh, okay, got you. All right. Well, it's been around for quite a few years. I can't find any other information about this company, really. Okay, I thought this was going to be revenue, but no, it's a stat. How much time do people spend in cars? Euros, time spent in cars, okay, blah, 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 blah. We're not being told much of anything. Car manufacturers might want to partner with them. Okay, maybe they can sell this to General Motors or some other car manufacturer. Content creators. Maybe they are going to earn money by allowing you to monetize on their platform, and they'll take a tax. They're going to take 30% of any money you make as the game creator. Who knows, right? Maybe if you want to offer this, you're going to have to pay a subscription fee, or you're going to have to pay for an upfront kind of device package, like we saw with Wide Awake VR. In any case, this website would not get full points in EECS 440 because we don't get a good sense of what their business plan is. And if I'm looking at this as an investor, if I'm wondering if I should put my money into this startup, then I'm probably wanting to see more than this. Okay, I want a hint as to how they actually make money, but I really don't see that here. Maybe they have some patents, maybe they don't, but we just don't have that information. So a question for you, how are you feeling about this company from what you've seen? Are you going to invest right now? You got $10 million and they want some cash. They're going to offer you some shares, some ownership. Are you going to give them $10 million for 30% of the company? 40%? If they offered to give you 100% of the company for $10 million, deal or no deal? Deal? All right, let's go. Very good. So what do you like about this company?
I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I could kind of see like a use case, we take like an Uber or something.
Yeah.
I could kind of see that as like, making deal with Uber to have in the cars. That's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, kind of a differentiating factor. Like you hope you get that Uber. When you call the Uber, you hope you get that guy who has the headset, right? Okay, all right.
I think if it had like a better work interface, it might be interesting because I don't know if you tried to ever like lug around like a laptop and chargers.
Yeah.
And do that in the car.
Sure. Maybe it can work in the headset or something. Okay. Like Apple Vision Pro, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about the games though.
I'm kind of the opposite. This technology is not interesting to me at all, but some of those games kind of look kind of cool. I like the pixel art. One of them looks kind of nice, right? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Tying into what was just said, I think if they can show integration with other airlines.
Okay. Airlines. Interesting. Yep.
It can revolutionize flight.
Okay, flight, right? It's scary. It's boring. It's it's kind of makes you sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Any research.
Okay. Okay. All right. So maybe airlines is where we should take this, right? Okay. Yes.
I don't really like the idea of this being like towards like games.
Yeah.
But more so like simulations. I feel like.
Okay.
I
Sims.
feel like the technology of like the motion it could be applied to like.
Okay.
The first thing that came to my mind was like astronauts when they're doing like.
Okay.
Simulations.
Some training, astronaut training.
Maybe it could be cheap to use this.
Okay.
Like, the whole set they have.
Yeah, training, education, right? We're getting into different applications this tech could be used for. But a big part of this startup is the application they've chosen. And they haven't really chosen education. They are about games, at least for now. I think this is the kind of question where, hey, if you're Jeff Bezos, yeah, sure, 10 million, right? Whatever, let's give it a shot. If 10 million is your last round of funding, like it's what you've got as an investor in your bank account, like this has to be it. This one has to return me $100 million. Otherwise, I'm dead as an investor, right? I'm not very high on this one, y'all. And it comes down to a big, big thing. We have a very powerful product that solves this problem already. It's the phone. And it can do a lot of things, actually. It has a lot more games, better games. It can even detect accelerometers, right? You could, theoretically, Samsung Gear VR this thing, or Google Cardboard this thing and stick this to your face, and then boom, right? Some startup could kind of come in and steal a lot of HoloRide's thunder pretty quickly. The social impact here of helping you enjoy card rides more, that's not really going to save your life. It's not going to give you your limbs back. It's not going to give you a career or a future. It is trying to solve a problem that's kind of already solved to an extent. It is kind of a novel application, kind of, right? It's also, I think, a little bit of a ridiculous one, but it is an interesting company in any case. I'm not sure how they make a lot of money, except maybe like finding a way to be like a boutique Uber. Like, we're going to partner with Uber. Uber's going to pay HoloRide so that Uber can then advertise, maybe get the special Uber and that shows up with a VR headset, right? I don't want to put this thing on if someone else has been sweating inside of it, okay? I hope the Uber driver cleaned it. And, I'm not super comfy with the idea of getting into a car with a stranger and then not, like, keeping track of where I'm being taken. Imagine your HoloRide session ends, like, what a fun game, and then, like, someone opens up the door and just throws you out of the car, right? Uh-oh, not so good. Anyway, it's an interesting company in any case, yes?
Yeah, I was going to just say, it's interesting how they have a lot of potential ideas, but the concept isn't really true.
Maybe I'm the fool here, okay? I'm the person who declined to invest in Facebook and Netflix and Google and Apple, and HoloRide is going to be everywhere because they just won't die. Other companies have perished. I've seen them perish during the time that 440 has been in existence, that we've been teaching this and looking at companies, and HoloRide just won't die. So maybe there's something I'm missing here. Maybe that's the reason I'm not Jeff Bezos. But anyway, on these metrics, it would score poorly in most of them. Novelty, it is somewhat novel. Social impact, it's not really going to save the world here. Financial sustainability, we have no information. And XR emphasis, right, is trying to engage you in a car ride, but this does that. So not super excited. They probably still passed the course, but not with that shiny A that is the average grade. So, okay, I want to show you a pretty fun deployment of augmented reality. In terms of social impact, I can't say this is very impactful, but it is a wonderful. It turns out AR is kind of a troll's paradise, okay? If you want to prank people and cause some mischief, then this is exactly what you need. This is Pepsi, okay? One of the great things about AR and game dev is that actually, if you know Unity and Unreal and all these engines and technologies, there are a lot of non-gaming, non-XR companies like Pepsi that will hire you to do these kinds of interesting experiments. And oftentimes it's the marketing team that actually is going to be the one that hires you. Here we have Pepsi that is basically souping up a bus stop in downtown some city, maybe in New York, maybe Chicago, I don't know. And they've replaced the glass of one side of a bus stop with a screen, a see-through kind of screen, some cameras, and they're able to layer on a bunch of AR effects. You can tell some of the pedestrians are kind of a little bit more convinced than others, but everyone is kind of interested in what's going on. I love the tiger one right here. You know, the guy stands up. And they're like, whoa, yeah, very impressive stuff. I have no idea what this has to do with Pepsi and drinking, sugar water. But whatever, okay. If it works, it works. Sometimes you get really fun results out of companies wasting their money. And so I'm not saying that should be encouraged, but it is fun that it happens sometimes. Okay, a reminder, when you are using Unreal Engine, okay, Control S, Command S, right? The typical command hotkey combination to save your project. Control S saves something, but it's not your entire project. It saves whatever you happen to be looking at the time, which means if you make a bunch of changes to your map, your scene, and then you go into a blueprint and make some changes, if you hit Control S, you will only save the blueprint, not the map. And so if you want to save everything, it's Control-Shift-S. In my experience, you only ever want to use Control-Shift-S. Control-Shift-S. Don't forget to do it or you will lose a lot of work. All right? Be careful. Okay. Exploration VR and AR are due, though AR has kind of been extended to Friday. And hopefully they went okay. Did you have any big points of friction outside of like Xcode? I know Xcode is always a huge source of friction. Any big problems? Account creation go okay? Account creation used to be a much bigger pain in the butt. Meta, their login system for Oculus just used to work 1/4 of the time for whatever reason. So it seems that things have improved as time has gone on. Do you remember my story from Monday? How we won the hackathon, won that $10,000 asterisk, right? $10,000. Basically, because everyone else gave up and we were able to kind of punch through this friction. Well, you can feel it now, okay? As time goes on, as the years go by, being an XR developer is becoming smoother and smoother, okay? More people will do it, and thus the bugs will get ironed out. That's a great thing for accessibility, but that also means your competition goes up, okay? As ease of development goes up, your competition goes up. And so you shouldn't always be looking for the smoothest technical ecosystem to operate in. That's going to be the one where everyone's at. It's going to be the crowded beach, okay? You want to get to the really nice, scenic, empty beach, you're going to have to hike a long way. So, all right. We have tutorial VR and tutorial AR launching today. I want to walk you through what those look like really quickly. Some of you have already leapt into it. I was here in the Viz studio at that computer, actually, last night about midnight. And my friend Stephanie, who runs the Duderstadt Center, is telling me, like, Austin, man, like, what are you doing? Like, go home. And they've been really tremendous helping us get things fixed up in Groundworks and everywhere. But one of the reasons I was going through this assignment to try and make sure that nothing was too broken, that Epic hadn't broken anything, I had to actually make a bunch of changes and fixes because I think, how many of you have started this yet? Have you noticed the sticky finger bug? No, it didn't affect you? Okay, it affected me last night. So I had to put in some tutorial footage showing you how to fix it. But basically, we must move beyond this very typical, VR student thing, where you basically just load up a project, you import some assets, you move things around and call it a day. That isn't a VR developer. That is someone who's just kind of dipping their toes into VR and then bolting. We got to get much more into Unreal Engine and VR development than that. We need to get into the trenches, into the nitty-gritty, and that's what we're going to do. This is your first step into the nitty-gritty of building your own interactions, your own logic in VR. We're going to be building ourselves a scene, a VR magic show. You're actually going to have some actors doing unique custom things. Okay, things that you can't just kind of pluck off of an asset store. Very custom things. You're going to be building a magic show in which you have a wand. You can point it at objects, and when you pull the trigger, you will cast a magic spell. There will be audio. There will be a transformation. Okay, you can see we aren't just making objects disappear. We are transforming them into other objects, into squash in this case. You will have a random chance of transforming one of these characters, these blocks, into a second item that's different than just squash or whatever you choose first. Notice that this isn't just a line trace interaction, right? Point at thing, transform the thing. We also have some scene and cinematic logic where the curtains are going to stay closed for a while and then they're going to open up and you'll hear clapping from the audience. There's an element of timing. You'll see that the actors, your audience members, are jumping for joy when they see you, and then they will calm down after a few moments. There's actually some cinematography here, right? There's some timing, there's some interesting custom logic. And you're going to learn how to do these kind of things. You're going to learn how to put pieces of logic onto different actors of the scene. You're going to learn how to synchronize a bunch of actors by putting variables and data up into a centralized global location. And you're going to start to get a little bit more feel for Unreal Engine in general, and how you can create one type of object, like an audience member, and that as a blueprint. And then you can bring it out and instantiate it in a few different places. If you've taken 494 or some of my other courses, this is the kind of stuff that you really want to learn to make yourself more powerful within any engine. Okay, so I hope you'll enjoy it. We've got a big, nice guide for you that's going to walk you through it. We've got a lot of footage for you. We have a lot of optional tips and context on the side that you can read as you kind of go through the assignment. But this is going to walk you through pretty much everything. You're going to be dealing with lighting. You're going to be importing objects like these curtains. You're going to import them from Sketchfab. Are there any EECS 298 students in here? We do have some in the course, right? You could import these curtains, or you could just make them in Blender yourself, right? You're going to notice that some objects are kind of messed up, and your 298 knowledge is going to allow you to fix them if you want to, easily. So I hope you look forward to that. You're going to learn about line tracing. If you're into Unity, this is known as a raycast within Unity. In Unreal Engine, it's known as a line trace. I'll tell you what, one of the hardest problems when going from one engine that to another, I kid you not, one of the hardest problems is just figuring out what the other engine calls everything. You know that raycast in Unity also exists in Unreal. You know it. And it also exists in Godot. You just don't know what it's called. All right? And so you can't really Google search it. This is a moment when the AI assistants come in really handy, because you can literally tell them, hey, GPT, I know Unity, I know what a raycast is, but is there something similar in Unreal Engine? And if so, what's it called? And it will tell you the line trace is the analog, the equivalent in Unreal Engine. All right? Anyway, you're going to go through this guide. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. It is quite fun. Unreal Engine is a beast, but it is a tameable one, and you will start to tame it during this assignment. After going through this guide, there are a small number of additional features you need to implement. For instance, you need to go in there and you need to implement your own custom wand object. You need to add some audio, and you need to customize your audience members so that they look a little bit different, and add a little bit more randomization logic to your spell and how it works. That's it. Okay, so hopefully it won't be too bad, and we got lots of office hours if you do struggle with it. I think the thing that makes this week difficult is that's not just that VR assignment, but it's also an advanced AR assignment too. You're going to be making, this one's a little bit simpler, I think. You're going to be making a very simple kind of augmented reality vehicle museum. You are going to be implementing different kinds of vehicles that move in a different way. You're going to be doing this in C#, and you're going to be creating some basic UI. The UI is going to do things such as tell us how many planes, how many cars, how many vehicles are currently in existence. And we're going to have some different UI that allows us to decide where to place the objects, and also allows us to decide which one we want to put down. Okay, so putting down just planes, but then we introduce a button that allows us to choose which object we want to put down. After you finish the guide, you are going to add an additional vehicle with an additional button. You're going to add a learn more button so that we can go out to the internet really easily and learn more about these vehicles. And you'll make them all move, and you'll make those vehicles turn so that they actually, act like vehicles. And that's it. Okay, that's it. I think the challenges you're trying to solve this week aren't too bad. But the big challenge is that you are still so early in your game engine, VR, AR journey. And so you aren't solving hard problems, but you have so many different diverse problems that you're not really used to yet. And that is what's going to take a lot of time, okay? So my tip is on this project, make it easier, is the same tip I'll give on every project. You really want to start this one early. You really, really do. Because you have to give yourself time to run into these problems and give yourself time to think about them, get some sleep, okay? I like to tell my 494 students, you can gain experience all day long, but you aren't going to level up until you get a good night's sleep, okay? Just biologically speaking, you need sleep. You need enough nights and good nights to take what you've learned throughout the day and kind of let your biology compile that into your long-term memory, into your mental model of what's going on. And if you don't get good sleep, and if you don't eat right to get that 3 healthy meals a day, then the information you learn during the day is going to go in one ear, out the other, and it's going to get really tough, okay? It's going to get very stressful. Instead, if you can get some sleep and you attack the problems early, things will be much more satisfying, and you'll go much faster, actually. Okay, I know you're busy. I know you can't always do that. Do the best you can. And come to my office hours. We got a lot of them. Just a reminder. Any questions on any of this? You're going to submit these assignments and prove you did the task by doing the same thing you did for these first assignments. You're going to record, okay? Record footage, demonstrate stuff, okay? Be careful. You have requirements for audio on this assignment, on both of these assignments. And so you're going to want to make sure that your videos that you've captured also capture the audio. Okay, good. No questions? You have, if you look on the schedule, not just these 2 assignments launching today, both of those due in 1 week. You also have Culture 1. What on earth is that? Well, these assignments actually really easy, and they're a great source of points to boost your grade in this course. these are assignments where we're going to watch some films. Okay? It's really important that you not just become excellent at implementing XR experiences. You need to understand the culture that surrounds XR. We want to understand, what are artists thinking about XR? People who look into the future and try and show us what it could be, the hopes and dreams and fears, okay, from utopia to dystopia. What do people think about XR today? What do people think about XR could become in the future? The good and the bad. The very first film we're going to watch is, surprise, it's The Matrix, okay? One of my favorite films. This was a 1999 film. It was released during an era of technological upheaval. People were very nervous about what computers were doing to their jobs, what it meant for computers in the workplace, but also at home. What are these computers doing to my kids as I watch them just play World of Warcraft for like 16 hours a day? Okay, what could happen if computers and AI became so good that it decided to put us into a cage? Not a physical one, but a cage for your mind. Are we in one already? Does it ever feel that way, even if it isn't factually true? Going to classes every day, going to the same job you don't really like every day, living in a society that you feel has stagnated, okay? It's a very interesting film for our times. It's a very timely one then, and I would say even more so now. It's also a very, I think, entertaining film. I think you'll enjoy it. This film is going to be running at 8 p.m. On the 28th of this month, on Wednesday. On that day, we will not have a lecture normally, giving you some time, hopefully, to take care of other business and then join us at 8 p.m. If for some reason you cannot join us on campus to watch that film together, what you can do is you can write a little miniature essay instead. You're going to watch the film on your own, and you'll read, write a little essay to kind of verify you watched it, and then some of that will be verification, but then we're going to ask you for a little bit of analysis, okay? We're going to ask you to think about what you've seen. Why was this film made? What is the film trying to tell you? And that's up for debate, okay? But if you can't make it to our film session, you write this essay, and that's how you get the points. If you come to the film session, you just get the points. You check in, boom, you get the points. And we will discuss some of these interesting questions together instead of you reflecting on it on your own. Okay, any questions on the culture assignment? And we have 5 total films that we will watch this semester. This might take place in Dow 1017. I might change the location, but I'll announce that stuff ahead of time, so don't worry. Any questions? Okay. One of my favorite films. It's the kind of film that is really fun, corny action the first time you watch it. And then every subsequent time you watch it, you see just a little bit more. There's quite a bit under the hood of this film. There's a lot going on, and I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, so what else do we have? P1 team registration. Technically, this hasn't released yet. It's like right here. But you can start thinking about this now. How many of you think you might want a team member? You have a particular team in mind for Project 1. Maybe a friend has taken the class or you've met someone. If that's the case, what you'll do is you'll click on this link right here. It'll tell you exactly what to do. You're going to go into the Canvas site. You're going to go to the People tab. You're going to go to this P1 Studios, Project 1 Studios tab, and you are going to hop into one of these teams with your friend, okay? Whoever you want to be with on this first project, hop in there with them. Now, if you don't do that, it's totally fine, okay? It's totally fine, and what will happen is that when we get to the start of Project 1, when we get to Wednesday the 21st, I am going to randomly match you up with other people in the course. You'll receive a random teammate, and that often works out quite well. But if you do have a particular person you want to work with for P1, then you should jump into that team before Wednesday. Okay, after that, you're locked in. Questions? Okay, good. I think what I've learned, and I think you'll learn it very soon too if you haven't, is that the ability to pick who you work with is one of the most important things you can ever have in your career, in your academic career, in your relationships. And so I encourage you to take the opportunity to try and meet people in the course and form teams yourself instead of having me do it for you. But it is your choice, okay? A tip, keep an eye on Piazza and Discord in this course. I will make announcements if something comes up and Unreal Engine breaks something in one of the homeworks. I'll let you know about it there. Keep an eye on Piazza and Discord. That's also where I will announce extensions for your assignments if we need to, like we had to do with the Exploration AR assignment. Okay? All right, good. How many of you have pre-existing knowledge with game engines? Raise your hand. Which ones and why?
Go, Monogame, Unity, Game Maker.
Okay. Dang, wow, that's a lot.
498.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking. Anyone else? Yep, okay, yep, 298, right? Yep, and 494. Yes?
Unity and Unreal. It's like 494 and then
Yep.
also past experiences.
Good, very good. So a lot of us have game engine knowledge and a lot of us don't have game engine knowledge. But even those of us who have game engine knowledge, I think maybe we haven't taken the time to think about what makes all these game engines so similar to each other and why are they so similar to each other. Game engines are a kind of fundamental topic, and we really want to get away from talking about just Unity in isolation or Unreal in isolation. We want to start talking about game engines as a fundamental kind of universal concept. And I want to start that discussion off by introducing you to this idea. You've probably heard it before, but it might have been a while since you've thought about it. This idea that form follows function. What exactly does that mean? Can someone paraphrase it for me? Form is a result of function. What does it mean? Have you ever noticed when you go to drink something, when you go to drink, the container is always kind of hollow in the middle, and often it has a little ring on the outside, okay? It is often kind of a rounder shape, and it's kind of obvious, isn't it? But actually, human civilizations that really haven't had no contact with each other, right? When you go to study them, when you go to museums that feature them, you will find very similar things across cultures. Why? Because those cultures all had the problem of making it nice to drink, okay? Making it efficient to drink liquids, to preserve liquids. They all invented similar bowls and cups to each other. Yeah, they're a little bit different. They have different materials, slightly different shapes, but human beings, completely isolated from each other, ended up building similar things because they have similar objectives. The form of something follows its function. I need to be able to drink efficiently, therefore, I create an object with certain properties. Here's another example. Let's say you want to build a chair, okay? And you're going to build this chair, you decide, by using wood and these little bits of steel, metal, iron, okay? Little nails. Now, you've got a problem. You have a problem because your hand is an awful tool for conjoining these nails to this wood. Why? What makes your hand awful for doing this? Like, you can try it. Not going to work very well. What's the problem? Yes?
It requires a lot of force.
Yeah, you need a lot of force. And, humans, right? We are strong, but not that strong. And also the material of your hand. Your hand makes an awful hammer Why?
It hurts.
It hurts, okay? This material right here is material that you feel, and it is also very cushy and soft, okay? Even if you've been like working out a lot, you've got a callus there, it's still kind of soft, okay? It's an awful tool for this job, and so we need a better tool. And actually, this is a problem that, again, isolated civilizations, not talking to each other at all, invented, okay? They invented this in isolation. What kind of properties do you want in a tool to get these nails into some wood? What kind of things might you want that tool to have? Our skin is super soft, so we would rather use something
Rigid, hard.
hard and rigid, absolutely. And we need to, use some force here. So, what's really scary about like being close to an object that's hard and you're using it with a lot of force? Like, what happens if you accidentally get your fingers in there? Well, what happens? Have you ever tried to like mess with rocks? Like, what accidentally happens to your other fingers sometimes if you're careless or someone else is too close by? Yeah.
You slam your finger.
Yeah, like you jam your finger or you smash your finger or you hurt someone else, okay? And so we would not just like this object, this tool to be rigid and tough, made of good material. We also want it to be kind of elongated. We need a handle, okay? Same thing with the cup, right? We want the ring on the side to act as a handle. It's easier to hold the thing, okay? We also want this device to be very cheap and easy to make and manufacture and source because we're going to need a lot of these devices. We're going to need a ton of them, actually. And the device will probably break because we're using a lot of force with it. So we want to be able to make them and repair them. Okay? All these properties, right? We want maybe in metal, something sturdy, strong. We want it to be lengthy to provide safety for ourselves and handles and also improve our aim and also allow us to leverage it a little bit more. Okay? We also want it to be, simple to replace. We want it to exist for quite a while and we want to be able to fix it. And so these requirements, these objectives, the function brings us to this, okay? It brings anyone with this problem to something resembling this. If you want to conjoin metal to wood, then your culture will eventually stumble upon or invent something like this, okay? And so hammers end up kind of sort of looking similar, even from civilizations that weren't talking to each other at all, weren't sharing knowledge at all, okay? Okay, so form follows function. You want to start with your objectives, and from there, the thing you build will just kind of flow. One thing that's always been kind of funny to me, I think military stuff is pretty cool, right? It's visually very cool, but I couldn't tell you, and maybe you can tell me, which of the following fighter jets is the American one? Okay, we got a military nerd in here. Very good. You can look at these and you might be able to suss it out. But what's really interesting here is that different countries, okay, different societies, they had kind of similar-ish objectives. Not the same objectives, but very similar objectives, right? They want to be able to control the sky, defend their nation, defend their airspace. And it needs to be able to fly. It has to be able to carry munition. It has to be able to go fast. It has to be very maneuverable. And these planes have somewhat different objectives, but they all kind of share those objectives that I said. As a result, completely different countries will create these fighter jets that all kind of still look similar-ish, especially if you're not super well versed in these technologies. Okay, which one is the American one?
It's the one on the bottom left. It's in F-14.
Exactly, F-14. Okay. All right, military nerd. Let's say, what are the other ones?
Oh, I don't know the other ones.
I forgot which one this is. I think it's the Sukhoi 35.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the Chengdu J-20. So pretty cool stuff. Very, very neat looking aircraft. But again, the idea is the same, right? You have certain objectives you want to meet, and so your form will follow function. Eventually, all of these airplanes become so optimized for their objective, their purpose, that they all start to look about the exact same. Form follows function. So let's say your objective is not to create a chair. It's not to create a fighter jet. We want to do something even more ambitious. We want to play God. We're going to create entirely new realities. Okay? It's a little bit more involved than a hammer. What on earth are we going to even do here? Where do we even start if that is our objective? Okay? We want to create worlds that we can't just see, we can't just hear. We want to create worlds that are alive. They have interactivity. You can mess with them, and they respond in a predictable way. We have simulations where individual characters have preferences and do things, and you can interact with them in surprising, dynamic ways. Sometimes the game designer doesn't even know what the game is capable of and what players will do within it, what kind of interactions will occur. How on earth do we start building a tool that can help us do this? Okay? A hammer is not going to cut it. Where do we begin with objectives so ambitious? And that's what we're going to figure out today. Game engines are the result of humans wanting to play God, okay? And wanting to do this for a very long time. And so, in this lecture, we're going to talk about kind of the basic elements that all game engines have. We're going to talk about game engine UI and why it tends to be so similar across game engines. We're going to talk about engines as a force for iteration and why engines are so uniquely good for creative pursuits like XR experiences and games and films. We're going to talk also about scripting, and we're going to get you a little bit of knowledge on Unreal Engine blueprints, in particular, because you need them badly this week and for the first project, okay? Our motivation here, right? Game engines are becoming the fundamental tools of the future for everything, right? It used to be that game engines were obscure topics only used for game dev nerds. That's why they're called game engines. These days, you have them being thought of more as reality engines. If you want to create reality itself, these are the tools you're going to use. And they can be terrifying at first glance, right? How many of you looked at Unreal Engine for Exploration VR, and you're like, what on earth is going on, right? There are gizmos and buttons galore. You've got all these weird things and menus, things to click on, things that blow your project up if you're not careful, right? How many of you found it quite intimidating? I'm kind of an expert at Unity, and the first time I opened Unreal Engine, I'm like, oh my God, what on earth is going on here, right? It is crazy, but it will get vastly easier in due time. So we need a tool for crafting new realities. One question we should ask ourselves is, what are realities made of? If you are scientific, you might say, well, you might look at something like this and say reality is made up of atoms and the different elements. And maybe you could say photons, at least for visuals, okay? And other interesting things and phenomena. Game developers, XR developers have never wanted to operate at that level. We don't have the computational ability to do so. Even if we understood how reality is truly formed and how it works, and we do to an extent, scientists do, we can't compute it, okay? We don't have enough GPUs and CPUs to make that happen. So we have always been faking realities, okay? And we do that mainly by attacking the senses. We fake our realities. We've been doing it forever, okay? Interestingly, these days when you want to train AI, you actually tend to train AI on games. It is surprising how often classic video games show up in AI research papers. Why? Well, do you want a world that has gravity and has collisions and has, nice things and not so nice things? Well, games are an approximation of that. If you can write an AI that is able to survive Mario, maybe that AI will stand a chance in the real world. Maybe. We'll see. But in any case, For a long time, we've been approximating and faking realities, and so we do that here in game engines as well. We're going to fake our senses and perceptions. What are your core senses and perceptions, by the way? What are they? Remind me. A couple are really obvious, but a few are a little bit, they're forgotten. What do we got? Yes? Sight. So important, right? That we will often wear glasses. Okay? What else? Yes? Sound. Sight and sound. Yep, absolutely super, super important ones. But there are others. Yes?
Touch.
Touch. Absolutely. A very, very important one. Okay? Yes? Smell. Absolutely. Understand if something is burning. Understand if you should eat something or not. Speaking of eating. Taste. Absolutely. Taste. Yep. And those are the major ones. Unfortunately, we've only been able to really replicate a few of these, all right, in games. When you are trying to determine where you are, and you say, well, I need to determine that I'm in a lecture hall. Lecture halls sometimes have a unique smell, right? The smell of chalk, the smell of mustiness, the smell of EECS nerds who maybe haven't showered, okay? That's what Reddit tells me anyway. But touch, right? You might sit down in these wooden, creaky chairs. You might feel with your feet, even through your shoes, you might feel the texture of the carpet, the cheap but durable carpet, okay? All these things that make you feel that you are in a lecture hall. Taste, hopefully, is not something you're using often to identify where you are, but who knows, okay? What about visuals? That's a big one, a huge one. A room is just a room until you see a clock, until you see a chalkboard or a whiteboard. That's a big one. You see a lecture podium, a ton of seats, that has to be some sort of lecture hall. The really good news for us computer scientists is that visuals and objects, 3D objects, oh yeah, we have file formats for that. We can handle that digitally, can't we? What about sounds? Listen to the sounds in this space. Did you notice they're there? I'll stop talking for just a second. Notice what's around you. What is that? What is it? Yeah.
The EC.
Yeah, it's like the AC, it's the HVAC, it's the circulation. You might hear a faint ringing coming from all of the electronic devices up here. Of course, you can hear someone talking in kind of a lecturely fashion. You also might hear the creaking of the floor as people step around. If people are working, you might hear typing or someone, right, opening up a can of Coke, right, or drawing on a piece of paper. All of those things are absolutely essential to making a space feel real. Fortunately, sounds, probably the second most important way to immerse someone in a space, is also easy to make digitally. You can use WAV files, MP3s. You can capture this stuff and play it back. The most important senses to feeling like you're in a place, we have covered with computers. Okay? We do not have smell or taste or touch covered. You will see some startups later in the course that have attempted to, for instance, make touch a thing in virtual reality. They have some very crazy methods of doing this, by the way. Very interesting. The good news, right, is that you're right, visuals and audio are two things we have a lot of great tools and file formats to represent digitally. And it's a really, really good thing, actually. So I want to show you something. I'm going to show you this right here, okay? Just look at this model. Look at this. Look at this. And I'm going to put you in the seat itself, at the back of the lecture hall, okay? All right. Do you feel that you are actually in this space right now? No. But a little bit. Okay, it's a first-person view, first person, like VR. is probably the most immersive perspective for your camera in a game or an experience. We have some nice, it is stylized, it is kind of cartoony, but it looks the part, it looks like a messy lecture hall. Not too bad, right? But it's certainly not finished. Let me help you a little bit. Is it a bit better? A little bit. You're hearing this activity and you almost want to walk through this door to find out who is making all this sound, right? Clearly, class just ended and you probably want to go home or go to your next class too. But there's something that's still missing. This is so still. There's no motion. There's no life to anything. I don't see a clock on the wall, but if I did see one, it wouldn't be moving. I see no drawing on the chalkboard. I see no people walking around. And that's all just kind of weird. Something is missing. We have our sense of visuals and space. We have this sense of audio. But what we don't have is logical consistency. Okay? In our real world, it's not static. It's very dynamic. Things are happening. You can walk up and interact with someone. I can do this right here, and something is going to happen. Right? Yeah. Right? I can do that. I can do that anytime I want. For everyone online, I just walked up and high-fived. And right? The world is interactive. It responds to you, to the decisions you make, to the things you do. And this actually might be the most important thing in making a space feel immersive. Actually, the most important thing. There have been a lot of games around for a long time. Would you believe that people still play this? This old-looking game. Crusty, okay? But people love this game. It is alive. It is interactive. If you build a crappy ride, people are going to think it's crappy, right? If you make them happy, they're going to be very thankful. Games and VR, like Job Simulator. Have you ever seen this game, Job Sim? When Project One shows up, I'm going to show you more about this game. This game doesn't look very realistic, but everything in this game is juicy and interactive. When you interact with things, when you grab objects, things happen. The other characters respond. The objects themselves allow you to interact with them very deeply. Playing games, logging in, stuff like that. Interactivity is really the heart and soul of interesting worlds. I'll remind you, one of the most immersive games of the last several decades, right, and best-selling games, Undertale, looks like this. Stylized and low quality, okay, in some aspects. I think the character design and consistency is pretty good. But Undertale is a very interactive game, a very interactive world. The game's paying attention to you, and as a result, it feels alive and dynamic, okay? It might be the most important thing. People still play Super Mario Bros. Not because of its visuals or sound, but because of its rules, logic, and game design, okay? And this is a world that has these things as well. We have visuals, we have logic that makes those objects do interesting, predictable things, well, once you've learned them. And the sounds are also bringing the world to life, even though they're just bleeps and bloops. It still is very responsive. This has been the basic model for making things interactive and immersive since the 80s. If you take these three critical things and you kind of organize them, what you really get to are a few questions that the software answers. Questions that the human brain will have for any new space and that the software can answer. The what? What is this reality made of? The where? How are they kind of arranged relative to each other? And the how? How do things work? When you poke it, what happens? All right? The what, the where, and the how. These are reality-defining questions that game engines are built to help us answer as game designers, and then experience as users. Unity, Unreal, Godot, Scratch, there are thousands, I would say, game engines out there of every different flavor and variety. So when you ask yourself, well, what properties do I want from a hammer? What properties do I want from a game engine? Something that can help us edit reality, a reality editor. Okay? Whether it's a simple reality or a very dense, complex one. Super Mario Bros. Elden Ring. Anyone play Elden Ring? Yeah? Okay. Very popular game. We need this tool, this reality editor, to help us define what our reality is going to be composed of. Textures, sounds, objects, okay? We need it to be very good at helping us define and say where are these things going to be and where are they going to be in relation to each other. And then we need some way for the engine, this new tool, to help us define how the objects work and interact and behave over time. And, what I mean is, hey, the coin will be collected when you touch it. The enemies will be KO'd or KOU when you touch them. Stuff like that. So I've got a question. What do the following have in common? This is the UI of Unity. This is the UI of Unreal Engine. This, the UI of Godot, and my goodness, I think I showed these on the first day of lecture, but isn't it just screaming at you? These things are the same. Like, in some cases, they aren't even flavors of each other. They are like the same thing. Oh my goodness. Slightly different coat of paint. You know what this one is? This is,
This is the Apple one?
This is the Apple one. Apple, did you know Apple made their own game engine? But they didn't call it a game engine because games are for children. Apple is a serious company for professionals with lots of money, too much money actually. It's called Reality Composer Pro, okay? Because again, this is not about games necessarily, though it could do that. This is about editing reality. And Apple's very good at marketing, right? They kind of see where game engines are headed. I'm surprised we still call them game engines in 2025. I suspect that won't be the case forever, all right? A rebrand may be coming sooner than you think, actually. What do they all have in common? Well, what do they have in common? What jumps out at you? There's one thing that should jump out right away. It takes up like 80% of the screen.
I was going to say they all use gumballs to move things.
Gumballs. Oh, the gizmos, the arrows, right?
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Usually don't notice that one. Yes? The viewport. Oh my gosh. Look at this thing, right? I suppose it makes sense that all of our game engines would have a beautiful big viewport. After all, one of the questions we're trying to solve is that question of where. It's one of the hardest problems to solve. We need to be able to reach in through a 2D screen into a 3D world and be able to manipulate and move things just right. If an object is even a centimeter off, everything could fail. Okay? This is a typical game engine editor, and it really is trying to solve those three core problems for us. The what, the where, and the how. Okay? The what, all right, what is our game made of? What is our reality composed of? Is handled usually, for whatever reason, usually at the bottom of our screen. And it's usually a big panel. The project pane, okay? In Unity, that's what it's called. In Unreal, what is it called? You've seen it a couple times. It's called the content drawer. Again, same exact thing, but they've called it something different. I wish we could standardize these. Wouldn't that be great? This is where you are going to have your objects, your reusable blueprints. In Unity, they're called prefabs. You're going to have textures. You're going to have sounds. All these things are reusable. And this is what our reality is going to be made of. Up here, we answer the question of where. And it always comes in two forms. A 3D representation, which is good for seeing how our user will perceive the environment, but also in a list representation. In this case, in Unity, it's called the hierarchy. In Unreal, it is called the... What's it called? It's called the outliner. It's called the outliner, which is also what it's called in Blender. Okay? 298 students. And so this helps us answer the question of where. Usually this gets a lot of space because answering the question of where requires a lot of interactivity from us. Gizmos to help us move things in 3D using a 2D interface. That's actually extremely hard to do. We get the list representation because our scene can be filled with millions of objects, and it might be so impossible to find that needle in the haystack that we would rather just search for needle and find it up there instead in the list view. That's a better way to do it, much faster. And then you always, and I don't know why, it's almost always on the right side, okay? It's almost always on the right side over here, the how. How does it work, okay? How does the object behave? How does it interact with other objects? It's usually called an inspector or a details pane, some sort of term that implies going deeper into something, looking closer. And so we have here those 3 questions of how reality is constructed right here represented in our UI. And what you have to understand is that engines must do this. Okay, if you want an integrated engine, every engine has to solve these problems. And because they are all solving the same problems, because they all have the same function, they are all going to have similar form. Because form follows function. Remember that, okay? Same exact thing here, okay? At the bottom, the project pane, okay? The what is down here at the bottom. We then have up here the 3D rep and the list rep, the where, and then down here on the right side, but kind of toward the bottom of the right side, we have our how. Click on an object and that changes to tell you and show you what the guts of the object are made of, okay? Here's Godot, and you'd never believe it, okay? But again, toward the bottom is our what pane, okay? The what. This is our resources area. Interestingly, you'd think this would be the resources area, but this is where the console is. You do wonder if some of the engine makers are thinking, okay, this looks too similar to Unity and Unreal. Let's get a little bit funky. We're going to put it in the corner instead. Okay, that'll show them. Okay, I don't think it was a good idea. This gets very busy very quickly, and eventually you can't see anything. Okay, the console view is down here instead. You have a list representation and a 3D viewport, like always, answering the question of where. And on the right side, like always, you have the answer the question of how, all right, the inspector pane. MIT Scratch has the exact same thing, okay? No joke. At the bottom is your project pane, what, okay? Up here, the viewport is the where, and on the right side, you have the how. And it's, you know, hey, Scratch, okay? Scratch is actually a real deal game engine. You can build some pretty serious things in Scratch if you want to. Building this game in Scratch in 3D, hellish, but it's possible. Okay, these software programs are all Turing complete, and if you build one game in one engine, you could probably build it in another. All right. So the similarities don't end at the what, the where, and the how. We have a lot of other common elements as well. For instance, almost all of these engines will have some sort of error or output, textual output view. So you can do quick and easy debugging. You can review logs and stuff like that. They will almost always also have a big, nice play button at the top of the screen, usually. Sometimes in the center, sometimes a little bit off to the side. In Unity, they look like this. In Unreal, they're about in the same place, interestingly. Okay, the play and launch controls, the output and error view. In Godot, we're kind of in the opposite corner with the play button, right? But the output and error view is right down there at the bottom again, right? The deal here is that we have a shared problem, and so we're going to have shared solutions. Unreal's default interface looks like this. This is what you're used to from your first couple assignments. But watch this. I'm going to take Unity and I'm going to make it look like Unreal. I grab the hierarchy and I bring it over here and oh my goodness, it's Unreal Engine. It's like the same UI layout completely. Unity cosplaying is Unreal. It's like the same thing. This is what Unity usually looks like. You've got the inspector taking up all the area on the right. You've got the outliner. You've got the hierarchy on the left. But guess what? I'm going to take Unreal Engine and I'm going to make it cosplay as Unity. I'm going to drag that outliner. Well, first I'm going to dock the project pane, the content drawer down here, and then I'm going to move the outliner over to the left side, and boom, we just recreated Unity. Okay? So all of my Unity students in here, do it. It'll make learning actually way easier if you do this right away. Okay? You'll enjoy it much more too. So, because game engines have similar function, they will, over time especially, converge on a similar form. And that's where we've ended up, okay? You hopefully aren't just learning Unity or Unreal this semester. You are learning game engines in general. This is, and it has to be, a game engine course. And so, hopefully you'll enjoy attacking game engines in general and not just learning one engine or the other. What I want to do is I want to take our 5-minute break, give you some time to use the restroom and think about this a bit more. I'm going to turn some music on. We're going to come back, and I have some fun stories for you as it relates to iteration and how important iteration is in creative fields and why game engines need to make it really easy to make a quick change and then test it. Make another quick change and test it, okay? And when that fails, the game is dead. Totally dead, okay? Okay, I will see you in 5 minutes. See you then. Nothing really warms the heart as much as kind of walking around and seeing people working on assignments. And the reason for that, right? So I'm kind of like the game dev prof on campus. I'm not really the XR prof on campus. Like there are other XR profs doing really great courses in XR. When you design a homework assignment, like you're designing an experience. And you might not think of it that way, right? Homeworks are not meant to be fun, are they? Well, it's not the primary objective, but it's a very useful thing if a homework is engaging, fun, smooth, right? Students will embrace it faster. They will grind the homework longer. They will learn things more readily. You know? If you meet someone who has a favorite game, they tend to know that game much better than they know other games. They know it inside and out. So when I walk around and I see people doing the homework, I can't look away, right? I'm like, oh, like, are they liking the homework? Are they confused? Is it too hard? Is it too easy? Are they wasting their time? Are they having are they learning something new? How many times has Unreal Engine crashed? Are we using the wrong software? Maybe we should change it for next semester. Maybe we should change it now. All these questions just come flooding in when you're walking around and observing. If you ever are so lucky to work on a product that is user-facing, right? So a product that other people are going to use, it's not some business using it, it's like a human being using it. You're going to feel the same way. I think a lot of you will feel the same way, right? You'll wonder, wow, like people are actually using this. Like, do they like it? Like maybe there's some bugs I have to fix. Or maybe I could make it faster. I could introduce some hotkeys because I see my users clicking all the time and they're so slow. Maybe I can program a hotkey for them. But then how do I teach them that hotkey, right? And your mind will be racing and swimming, okay? How do you accomplish this? And, if you care about people, you'll care about doing a good job. And that's a very, I hope you all get to experience that because it makes a job just very, very satisfying. I've had some friends who go to a big company and they make a lot of money. They make more than I do. In fact, most of my students graduate and make more money than I do right away. And they go to like a banking company, write some banking software. Hey, if you get the chance, go do it because there's some good money in that line of work. But one way you pay for that is that you are making software for a cold, faceless business, a company. And, you're not really going to get to watch humans be impacted by that too much. If they are, it's going to be very indirect. Okay? And it's boring. At least I think it's a little bit boring. But that's why so many people want to work in XR. They want to work in game dev. It's the same reason people want to go to Hollywood and work on films. These are software. This isn't just software for like an accounting program. This isn't just software to make money. This is software that people develop an attachment to that actually affect human beings emotionally. They form memories and relationships around the kind of software you make. If you go into banking software, you're going to make a lot of money, but you probably won't make too many memories. So that's just the trade-off, right? You often hear that game dev is kind of a tough business. It is. It can be. There are a lot of great studios too, but there are some pretty tough studios. It's the Hollywood effect. Film is a very notoriously difficult business, right? I mean, that's showbiz, baby, right? That's where that phrase comes from. When you cruelly get laid off or, a film, you put your heart and soul into a film and the audience just doesn't like it, right? That's how it goes. But, what an industry to be in. It really is a crazy place to be in good ways and bad. Okay, anyway, sorry for the tangent. I think that's taken us 5 minutes. All right. I'm very, very lucky that I get to both make games and teach game dev and XR. It's kind of a nice mix of both worlds. Okay, iteration, right? Iteration. This is a huge topic in 494. It's a pretty big topic here as well. Game engines are all about iteration. Why? Why? What's the point? Well, look at this world right here. Elden Ring, when it came out a few years ago, was a massive success. It is a huge world, and it is almost entirely handcrafted, which means the game designers, the level designers, had to be very particular about where they wanted certain things to be, how they wanted certain actors to act. And you can imagine it's very, very tough to get that kind of thing just right. In fact, if you look at this screenshot, it's very small, it's kind of compressed, so it doesn't look that great. But actually, it still looks pretty great. If you look in the background, you can see this beautiful tree over a rolling hill and this kind of curved path to get there with some enemies and some interesting structures off to the side. If you make some different creative decisions, this scene might not work. It might not lead the player properly to where we'd like them to go. It might look ugly if people take a screenshot. I took a bad screenshot and it still looks pretty good. We got the beautiful lighting coming in from the side. We have these leaves in the distance falling and glimmering from the tree. Reality, it's a very detailed thing, and it's very tough to get it just right, but it has to be just right or it doesn't work. It becomes uncanny. The human mind is so very good at noticing things that just don't make sense. Placement of trees that don't make sense, right? Iteration is extraordinarily important because if we need to get something just right, but it's not something like a math equation, it doesn't have an obvious answer, we have to go find it, well, that means experimentation is the way. All right? It's the way of the world. This is the iterative design process from Jeremy Bond's book, Intro to Game Design and Prototyping. And this process is basically the idea that as game designers, we're going to analyze where we are and what we need to change. We're going to design a change, and then we're going to implement and program that change. We're then going to test it to see if things got better. We'll analyze if things got better or worse, and then we'll design another change. We'll implement it. We'll test it again. You keep going around this iterative cycle, and eventually you get to a really good place where it's just right. And this quick play functionality is the key to all of this. I'm going to show you this video right here. In Unreal Engine, it takes just seconds to bring in a new actor, to customize that actor with a few checkboxes, give it physics, play the game, and haha, right? How cool. Do I want the chair there? No, it's not funny enough. Raise it up so we have more energy, it goes further, okay? That's more like it. In just a matter of seconds, at most, we can very quickly make changes and experiment to get exactly the feel that we want. All engines will provide this sort of quick play functionality so you can just very quickly experiment and see if the experiment worked out. In order to allow you to make changes very quickly, engines will provide a scripting layer. Now, my game engine architecture students in EECS 498 are going to be building this. They know all about this by now. Game engines tend to be a scripting layer on top of a high-performance C++ or C core. Now, the scripting layer is almost always in a scripting language, not compiled, okay? It is usually interpreted for this reason. The Sims 4, by the time I joined The Sims 4 back in like 2014, it was a code base of, I think, about 4 to 5 million lines of C++ code, which means that if you want to compile a change to C++, even a tiny change, it was about a 40 to 50 minute compilation process, okay? You want to experiment and iterate in C++, 40 minutes at least per experiment. That means how many experiments can you roughly do per day, per workday? Can we get a number? If you're making the changes quickly, you know exactly what changes you want to make, you can get like, 8 to 10 in per day? That is horrifically terrible. Okay? Especially for a game like The Sims, which needs a lot of content, a lot of objects that work in fun little different ways, right? That has to feel just right, so it's not boring, but it's also not too fast or frenetic. And so, on The Sims 4, it was very, very clear we could not have most of our gameplay content, our artistic, creative content. Those decisions and content had to be made in a scripting layer, not in C++. Scripting layer turned out to be a Python, a layer of Python code and logic that would interface with the C++. The C++ is where we would put most of our performance-intensive, stable technology, such as pathfinding. Pathfinding doesn't change that much. We want to run very fast. We don't compile it that much or that often, and so that's a good place for that. Our rendering technology is in C++. Our pathfinding AI technology, some of it is in C++. In Python, we would put our logic for objects and how the sims would make decisions and stuff like that. Some common scripting languages are Lua, which you learn in EECS 498, Python, which is a pretty awesome choice because it has a wonderful big standard library, and tons of people know Python. And if you don't know Python, even game designers who don't have a whole lot of engineering background can learn Python at a basic level. C# is the scripting language that Unity uses. Blueprints are the scripting language that Unreal uses, but it's a visual language, not a textual one. Typically, these languages will be interpreted, which means you give up a lot of speed, but you don't have to compile things anymore. Okay, there is no real compilation. The interpreter will just kind of consume and look at your lines of code and will try and run it just then and there. It's a very kind of high-level compilation, you can think of it, which means it's slow performance, but very fast in terms of compilation and just startup costs. Typically, these languages, the scripting language, are also sandboxed. Would you believe me if I told you that there are a lot of very poorly coded websites on the internet? Everything from the engineers at Facebook to the kid in Norway who just made a portfolio site for their puppy. All of these have errors and mistakes, and we really need to make sure that a poorly coded website on the internet, of which there will be an infinite amount, do not crash your web browser. The web browser is going to be able to tank that badly made website, and that it doesn't crash your operating system, thus your entire computer. Your operating system sandboxes and isolates and contains your various programs from each other so that a really poorly written program doesn't crash the entire computer or doesn't interfere with other programs that are running at the same time. Same thing here. Scripting language. A lot of content's going to be there. It's going to be written by game designers, by people who don't quite know what they're doing, but sort of do. And so we really want to make sure that if there's a coding error in one small part of our game or app, then we don't want it to crash the entire app. Okay? We can always fix the error later. Don't crash the whole thing. So typically sandboxed. These languages will be sandboxed. If the C++, if the high performance core crashes or has an error, usually the entire thing will explode. Okay? And so, right, let's talk about the scripting, okay? And again, this is answering the question of the how. How does a game engine allow us to determine how objects will work and behave? Well, scripting is the way that we do that. It is the language of logic. In C#, you might have something like this. You've got a component called custom velocity. This is usually in a file called custom velocity, customvelocity.cs in the world of C#. Okay? Here we have some life cycle functions, we call them. We'll talk more about these later. A start function that will automatically run when the game starts. An update function, which will automatically run every frame of your game. And we can put some of our own code into these functions to have the game engine react in a certain way. Over here we have blueprints, and it's the same thing. It looks different, but it's the same. We have a function. Believe it or not, that's a function. It's called event begin play, and that is going to run automatically. Unreal will make this happen. It's going to run automatically when the game starts. And then we have an event tick, the same exact thing as the update. This is going to be run, boom, 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 60 times per second by Unreal. and we can add whatever logic in there we want. Okay, and it's just going to run. This is the C# programming language, one of the most popular on the planet. One reason you want to learn Unity and C# is because you can get like enterprise jobs programming in C#. Okay, in fact, I wrote the EECS 498 Game Engine Architecture Autograder in C#. Why did I choose C#? It's a great language, very mature, rich library ecosystem, and I knew it very well from my adventures in Unity and game dev. It's really, really nice stuff. Over here we have Event Graph, or it's called Blueprint Visual Scripting. And it is basically what you've seen before, maybe in MIT Scratch. It is a way of programming that goes to great lengths to simplify the process. It actually has some tremendous costs. I don't enjoy visual scripting because it is bloated and verbose. Good luck doing a math expression with these kind of nodes. Okay, even a tiny one-line math expression to calculate something basic is going to be a gigantic spaghetti ball of lines and nodes. Really nasty, but it's very good for getting started. What do you think these scripts do, by the way? I'll give you a second to look at it and just kind of guess what it does. You don't know much about C# yet, you don't know much about blueprints yet, but both of these do the same exact thing, and something very basic. What do we got? What's going to happen? I'm going to show you in just a moment. Yes?
Like movement based on previous input or velocity.
Yeah. All it is doing is it's moving our objects. Okay? That's it. In this case, we have a function, transform.translate, and it's taking a velocity vector, a vector 3, x, y, z, okay? And it's taking this vector 3 variable, velocity, and just moving us by that amount. Same thing over here. We have a variable. It's a vector 3. You wouldn't know that unless you know that a yellow variable is a vector 3, a 3D point in Unreal. And we are plugging that into a crazy, very weirdly named function called add actor world offset. They could have just named this move. Why didn't they just name it move? It took me a long time to find this thing, okay? For like my first 2 hours in Unreal Engine, I couldn't figure out how to move an actor. Like this is like the first thing you do in any game engine. You figure out how to move the thing. And I couldn't figure out how to move it because I had the craziest name you've ever seen. It kind of sort of makes sense. You're adding some world offset to an actor, right? Like you're offsetting it in the world. But whoa, what a bad name, okay? All right, anyway. Both of these do the exact same thing. You can see the objects moving. It's kind of funny. The one on the right has pushes the little chair off as it does so. But both of these scripts, both of these components are doing the same thing, okay? And you'll need this on the right here in particular on Project 1. So we're going to do a big deep dive into blueprint scripting pretty soon. So don't worry too much about that. Visual scripting is something you probably haven't dealt with in a long time. Probably not since MIT Scratch, and maybe you never did any MIT Scratch. So visual scripting is programming with visual nodes. And don't let this freak you out. There are some things you need to memorize, but the concepts from textual programming that you already know from C++, from Python, from other languages, are all here. This is literally a programming language just represented in these shapes instead of a bunch of text. For instance, all of these big boxes here that you see are function calls. Even this one over here, this green one, is a function call. And like any function, it has sometimes parameters, okay? Parameters like a string, okay? You want to print a string? We got to know which one, so that's going to be a parameter. What string do you want to print? This one over here has other parameters. What actor do you want to move? You want to move an actor, huh? You got to tell us which one. You got to tell us, do you want to move them up, left, right, down? How much, right? Give us a vector 3 to tell us how to do that. There's some other properties that we can configure to change what kind of movement that is as well. Okay? One really cool thing about visual scripting, this might be the killer feature of visual scripting, You remember when you were programming in C++ and you had a compile error? You had an extra semicolon, or you were missing a semicolon. Anyone ever have a bug like that? Oh yeah, it's classic, right? It's a classic beginner bug, and it drives you crazy, especially if your compiler is being a bozo and it won't tell you what line it's freaking out about. Or you can't read the compiler message, so you couldn't figure it out anyway, even if it's trying to tell you. How many of you have ever had a bug where you were trying to call a function, set size, but accidentally you used a lowercase s instead of an uppercase s? So a typo, and you got a compiler bug, right? Absolutely, right? These are very common beginner issues. These are the things that drive people away from learning textual languages like Python or C++ and cause them to give up. But if you look here, in Unreal Engine visual blueprint programming, you can't make a typo, can you? If you search for a function, if you right-click inside of this blueprint and search for a particular function, hey, it might not exist, okay? Like if you type a typo, it's just not going to show up. You can't accidentally grab some function that doesn't exist. You're probably going to find what you want. And when you do, it's not really a matter of having typos or not having typos. When you go to plug certain parameters into a function, it's going to be able to tell you right away if that's possible or not. And it can give you hints. It can give you some context for choosing the right way to hook these things up. And so, right, we have functions over here. We have events, which are really just functions that the engine will call for you. You don't have to worry about these things getting called. Unreal's going to take care of it for you. Very, very, very nice. You have parameters, and these parameters have types. So again, they're going to show you exactly what you need to provide, and they're going to show you when you are maybe trying to plug the wrong type of a variable into the wrong kind of input parameter. Okay? So what I'm trying to get at here is that visual scripting has some downsides. It is very verbose, it's very big and chunky. If you want to do advanced logic, it's going to be slower to do it this way. But for beginners, this is a godsend. Okay, for people who don't do a lot of programming, visual languages like this can be incredible. In fact, if you talk to artists, right, if you talk to musicians, they will say, oh no, I don't program, I just do blueprints. I kid you not, I've heard that many times. I'm not a programmer, I just do blueprints. And in my head, I'm like, oh, hey, you are programming. You're just programming in a bit of a different way. All right? Okay, and so anyway, we've got input parameters like you'd expect from a function. We've got return values. All, functions tend to have those. Not all functions do, but quite a few of them do. We have variables. The variables tend to be in these tiny little ovals. They have a type. You can often set them before the game begins. And each of these things, the inputs, the variables, the outputs, have a color-coded type to them. And if you hover your cursor over those little ports, I think it will actually tell you what the type is. Okay, so very, very nice. I've got a challenge for you. Tell me what this function does. Actually, this isn't a function. This is just a string of logic. We can put this into a function if you want to, but it's not in a function right now. We need someone to stand up and act this out for us. We got any theater kids in the class? Oh, come on, come on. I know some of you are theater kids. Okay, who wants to do it? Come on, let's go. We got 7 more minutes. That's it. Come on, let's go. Okay, go ahead. Do it. Yes.
Me?
Yes, you. Stand up. Act it out. Let's go.
Go. Blue.
A little bit fast, but yeah, pretty much on money, right? So we got this delay node right in the center here. and that's going to kind of delay the execution of our control flow. What's going to happen here is this. When we launch our game, this event, basically a function, right, is going to begin execution. This white line right here is our flow of execution, our control flow. Basically, when you are reading a textual programming language like C++ or Python, you are reading downward. And if you see a function, you kind of hop to the function, and when the function is done, you hop back up. That's the control flow, right? If you see a loop, if you see an if statement, you have to kind of evaluate the condition and decide to go in or not. Here, you don't read downward. You tend to read from left to right, but what you actually need to do is you need to follow this white line at the top. That white line is going to carry you through all of your functions. And if this white line does not go to a node, that thing is not going to run, okay? You might as well consider it commented out. In fact, cutting these lines is a very common way to create some dead code. Do you ever create some code that's in a comment block? Like /* and then a big block of, you comment out a chunk of code to get rid of it just for an experiment, okay? Or maybe you don't need it, but you don't want to delete it yet. You ever do that? Yeah? Well, one thing you can do, I think you can Alt-click. You hold Alt and you click on that and click on that. It will delete the lines for you really quickly. And then hey, you just route around that node and boom, you're done. Well, first, in this example, we're going to print go. Then we're going to hit this node right here, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then blue, okay? Sweet, makes sense. And I will tell you, in this example, I used the delay node. This thing is spooky, okay? The delay node is kind of funky. Sometimes, especially if you are starting a function like this every frame, boom, 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 that delay node is going to freak out. So be careful about using the delay node. You can get some very weird results from it. If I want to wait, often I will just use a variable instead, and I will count frames. After 60 frames, we go into an if statement and execute different logic. That's how I kind of prefer to do waiting. Anyway, right, link these nodes to achieve some control flow, a sequence. Here's another challenge. This one's a little bit harder. Let's see if you can do it. Okay. Is stinky is a variable, a Boolean variable, and currently it's true. You are a very stinky person when you do this, okay? Who wants to do it? Say, Austin, this is distasteful. I will not get up and be a volunteer. Okay, fine, it's false. It's false now. Who wants to do it?
Act it out.
Yes.
Go blue.
Good job. Yes, and there's no delay this time. There's no delay node. This variable right here is false. You are not stinky, so you say go blue. What's going to happen here is we're going to begin the game. We're going to immediately print this line. The branch. Oh, you thought it was going to be called if, did you? No, sorry. Unreal chooses the most painful names you never predict. All right? They decided to name the if statement node branch. Come on. Don't do that. They named it branch. And you need to provide a variable. If that variable evaluates to true, you'll go down one output. If it's false, you go down a different chunk of control flow. Okay? This is what an if statement looks like in Unreal Engine Blueprint scripting. And it's a pain in the butt. If this is false, it's go Bucks, okay? It hurts me to say that. Very stinky to say something like that around here. Okay, advanced control flow is absolutely possible. For loops are possible as well. And I'll tell you, polymorphism, a very important word for our project one, is also possible. It's very, very, very cool. But if you've forgotten what that means, I will be showing you examples of that later during P1. Don't worry about it, but it's super, super cool. Here's a final challenge for you. What on earth is going to happen here? Okay, what do you got? Let's go. Right now. Who's going to do it? Come on. We got 60 seconds. Let's go. Come on. You got to call on someone.
It says go blue, go you, and P2.
Very good. Very good. You saved the lecture. Give us just enough time. Okay, our game starts and we enter into a for loop. A for loop actually is kind of an interesting one. It's kind of a hard one to look at first. But basically, this for loop is going to want us to provide a few things. Okay? It's going to want us to provide an object, some sort of array element that we are considering. Now, we don't always think about that so much in C++. If you have just a normal for loop, right? For int I equals 0, I smaller than 10, I++. The array element is actually that I integer variable, okay? Now, if you had a different loop, like a for each loop, you might not have an integer. You might be dealing with like a string in a set or an array of strings. In any case, whatever object or variable you are thinking about is going to be in this little pink little node. And you're going to have this loop body kind of control flow output. This is the logic that's going to be run on each new element of that set, of that container. Now, in order to actually go through a for loop and analyze a thing, or a bunch of things, we need to actually provide that container full of the things. Okay, so this is where we are making an array, and these are going to be an array of strings. It turns out pink is the string data type color. So we are making an array of go blue, and then the second string is go you, and the third is and me too. These three strings are getting fed into and put into an array. That array is being put into this for each loop. And so we are executing this logic right here on each string. And that string, whatever string is our current one we're considering, it's going to come in here. And then once we're done hitting all the strings with this logic, we will escape and end by coming out here to finish the for loop. In this case, we don't really do anything after the for loop is done, but we could by extending out of that completed socket right there. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Look at this. When you are dealing with blueprints, very often you read left to right, but I encourage you, when you hit a node that has a lot of interesting inputs, you have to read backwards. Oh, we got a for loop, but what are we iterating through? Oh, we're iterating through a string array. Well, what's in the string array? Oh, and you can see, okay? So here's the thing. We're done for today. This is it. But here's a major takeaway for you. As you get into tutorial VR and tutorial AR, these are tougher assignments. You should start them early. You are going to be encountering the exact same concepts and ideas that you've already had plenty of time with in EECS 183, EECS 280, EECS 281. The problem and your main challenge this week is that those familiar concepts are going to look different. They're just going to look different. But in their heart, they're the same thing. Okay? The way you read the code is going to have to shift. It's not top to bottom anymore. It's left to right, but then sometimes back from right to left and then back to left to right again, right? It's going to be weird, and you're going to feel very slow at this for a while. This is going to kind of be like learning to play the piano. Okay? Except on a smaller time scale, right? You know music, but you can't quite play it. And it's going to take you just some biological time. It's going to take you time to get rest, time to mess around with it. You will find yourself getting faster and better at all of this. It's going to become much more comfy just through the simple mechanics of you getting time with this stuff and getting good sleep. You can reduce the amount of time you need for this to get comfortable by getting better sleep. Okay, 8 hours a day and get all of your meals. All right? You do that, you're going to level up way faster. You won't need as much experience to hit your level up. Okay? And pretty soon this is going to feel just at home. Just takes time. So fight through that friction, okay? There's the theme of last lecture. It might as well be this lecture as well. Fight through the friction and know that everyone has to go through this. And that there's a nice, juicy reward waiting for you on the other side, okay? You know Unreal Engine? No students learn Unreal Engine. It's too tough. People give up, all right? So I hope you will enjoy these assignments, even though they are a little bit tougher than last week's assignments. If the Groundworks continues to struggle, I will make more extensions if I have to, okay? I'll make announcements if I have to. And come to office hours. We can help you knock out a lot of the stuff. Do not forget those Sunday big block office hours. Those could save you. And on Monday, next Monday, we have MLK Day, no lecture. So I will see you on Wednesday. Okay? See you then, everyone. All right, everyone online, thank you for joining us, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.